Welcome, Thomas. Good to see you. Welcome to the Leaders Who Care series.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great meeting you recently. And shout out to the other Thomas Reeves, for introductions. I seem to be hanging around a lot of Danes these days,
Yeah,
including my daughter-in-law, but it's very much Canadian-ish, so I like that. Um, Best way to start is if you could briefly introduce yourself, more from like who you are, family, and stuff like that, and then we'll get into the business. So please.
yeah. Oh, thanks for that. So as you mentioned, my name is Thomas Munch-Laursen. I am 54 by now. Believe it or not. I am by education, I am a skilled carpenter. But on top of that, I have an engineering degree in building construction and an MBA. On a personal level, I have previously been married. Out of that marriage came two kids, grown-up adults now. I have a son that actually turned 24 yesterday and a daughter at 21. As you may guess, now I am divorced. However, I am living with my girlfriend now. I choose to call her that. We've been together for
Does she
almost
call
50
you her
years.
boyfriend?
Yeah, well, I hope so. She does. I live together with her in a town called Silkeborg. It's very near to, or very close to the second largest city in Denmark called Aarhus. So which means I live in Aarhus. Um, I have, I would say, on a personal level, always been a kind of entrepreneurial in the way I've approached things. However, it took me some while to really be true to who I am. Work-wise, I have been working in, I would say, larger corporations until I really, wanted to explore my entrepreneurial side. Hence, I had the idea to what has now become the Guardio, which
And I'm gonna interrupt you, and we're gonna get to that in a minute.
yeah, sure,
But
for
what
sure.
I'd love to ask you is, what were you like as a kid or a teenager?
Yeah.
Were you curious? And I have to say this: were you playing with Lego, because that's where it comes from? Um,
Obvious. Yeah.
were you building things all the time? We have lemonade stands when we're kids here. Did you have a lemonade stand, or were you playing sports or music? What were you like?
I would say in one word, I was a dreamer. I was very, you can say, visual in the things that I tried to do. Yes, I played with Lego in the sense that I love building stuff, but when it was about playing with the things after it was built, it kind of didn't caught my interest any longer. So I would say I was always a kind of a dreamer. I always tried to build something. I was playing football, the European version of it, I would say, for quite some time. I love the camaraderie around it, but I was not. I could now reveal, despite the fact that I was not a big talent, but I liked to be in a team. I really enjoyed that. Um, but yes, Lego obviously played a, I wouldn't say a huge part of my childhood, but it definitely played a part of it, which it does in many kids, especially obviously here in Denmark. Um, Actually, the founder of Lego uh, does not come that far away from where I grew up. So yes, there is a kind of a close proudness collaboration with the brand Lego in Denmark for sure.
Oh, they should be. Yeah, we hear
Yeah,
it all the time, and it's a major company, and now they have the Lego Legoland here, and they have Lego movies and all sorts of stuff like that. And I think we learn a lot from it. With respect to your journeys, I mean, first you had a unique education, as you talked about a little bit, very much practical training
yeah,
as a trained carpenter, then to building engineering, building construction. Then you got your MBA in marketing, good for business, and you were involved in a lot of leadership stuff. What were you, if you were, what were you envisioning to happen?
So I do remember when I was a kid, I had kind of two things that I would like to do in my adult life. That was either to become an architect or a diplomat. So it kind of goes in two different directions. But I was always curious, and I always wanted to explore countries as well. So you can say I was always thinking out of the box, or out of Denmark in many ways. And that was kind of my, you can say, inspiration to my kind of the way my career went. Why did I go the Carpenter way and not direct to college, or and then later on to university? I would say I struggle with language, to be honest. I was relatively good at math, but I was having really challenges with language. I had to had additional help to really learn to spell. That was my biggest challenge. I'm an okay reader, but I was not really good at spelling stuff,
Hmm,
at create sentences. So that kind of influenced my, you can say, my self-esteem, if I can put it in that way.
sure.
And my father, he always was an advocate for having a skilled, you can say, education, because he came from, you can say, the old school side of it. So it
Hmm.
means a lot for him that I became trained in something, which I always could fall back to in case additional education thereafter should fail. So it was kind of heavily influenced on my father, you could say, to be quite honest, that I actually took that indication of becoming a skilled carpenter. It was
Interesting.
tough because there were another side of me that wanted a different direction. But end of the day, learning a practical skill also gave me a respect for that side of work as well, which had definitely influenced also the way I lead thereafter. Uh,
It's interesting
that's
because you talk about the sports, even though you said you weren't a big talent, but you loved the team,
yes,
and you became specialized in a skill set, and you learned how important it was to build things. So we placed a head of engineering for a big company recently, and in the search, the client said, I want an engineer who's actually also built stuff, not just manage things, but
yeah,
actually build stuff. And it's
yes,
interesting too today, not to go too far off here, the skill sets are becoming more and more important. Not and college still important, but not the same. People want to have trained skills that they need. So
yeah,
you were kind of a little bit of ahead of your time. We founded our firm, Fifth Element, on the basis that leaders and their businesses can do way better when they're doing good at the same time.
yeah,
And you clearly are, from your background, an early leader in understanding this based on the experiences and accomplishments you've had in building. And this is a two-sided thing, building concrete solutions, literal concrete solutions, but concrete solutions, which I find interesting,
yeah.
where you could have an economic, social, and environmental impact at the same time. How did you evolve through that? And if you can share with us an endeavor or two that you saw did make both an economic and social impact.
So I would say I guess I always been mission driven. I always had a sense that I wanted to be a part of something that makes a difference. It's not always the case that you can be able to achieve that. Yes, I have also have my detours in my sort of my career. It hasn't had a straight line. Which means I've tried a lot. I also definitely know what I'm not good at, and I kind of use that as a you can say as a guiding lamp for me when I kind of in my you can say path really challenge myself to find out who am I really. I can put it another way. When I was younger, I always thought that the grass were greener on the other side. And the further up you came in the organization, the greener the grass must be, the more fantastic job they must have. Now I realize that's not the truth. unless you had a certain, you can say, a personality that really thrives in these organizations. And I don't have that. I'm not, to be quite honest, I'm not cynical enough. I am more I would say mission driven. I'm more flat hierarchy oriented. I am a believer of a team than individuals.
Right.
That's what I definitely have learned in my sort of path until now.
Yeah, it's that's fascinating to hear, and thanks for sharing that. You know, the fourth industrial revolution is really been cleared to be, technology, way past the internet, AR, VR, and now AI for sure, crazy. But they also say, speaking of teamwork, that the fifth industrial revolution is about humanity and
Yeah.
how humanity benefits and capitalizes on technology, not the other way around. And impact and talent come together all the time. Share with us now about your innovative leadership at Aguardio. Where did the idea come from, and where did the name come from? Let's start with that.
Yeah. So Aguardio as a company is almost turning 7 years next year in March. So the idea to Aguardio came as a result of myself having a quite big utility bill, and as being an engineer and being curious, I ended up wondering, well, what do I actually pay for when I pay my utility bills? And in that, you can say, investigation, I ended up in the bathroom where I can see that I used a quite big proportion of my energy bill in heating up some hot water, which then is being used in taking a shower, which then led to, well, how could I reduce that? Very simple. So I kind of looked at what is available on the market, and I discovered to my surprise that it was all technical solution that was developed by engineers and were bought by engineers. There wasn't any really, you can say, simple plug and play solution. That was also nice. That also appealed to the female side, because at the end of the day, those who take the decision when it comes to interior, especially in the bathroom, is not men, it's females.
Right.
So I thought, well, maybe there is something there. So that's really where we started.
And the
The
name?
name
Yeah.
the name Aquadio, yeah, well, it's actually a combination of three words. So if you look at the four first letters, that's actually water in Spanish. If you remove the A and the IO in the end, then it says God, which is kind of protecting the water. And then if you look at the last two words, IO, has something in Latin, is about the individual. So it's all about us individuals protecting the water. That's actually how the word Aguardio has become. Pronouncing Aguardio for Europeans, Nordic, is very difficult, versus if you come to Spain, UK, English-speaking countries, is more natural. And that's kind of funny.
It
But
is.
that's really the truth.
I would think so. Do they say Aguardio versus Aguardio?
Yes, they actually do that.
Hmm.
And for some, it can be challenging to pronounce, especially the first part of the word.
Yeah. But hey,
Yeah,
listen, that's what makes people ask the question then. What is
yeah,
it? What, where did it come from? So, like I did. So,
yeah.
so talk to us about, as the founder and CEO, how are you using technology to reduce water and energy in the bathrooms, and how, and tell us how this impacts and empowers people like, or people and companies like real estate developers, homeowners, and even commercial real estate users like hotels or big
Yeah.
buildings and whatnot. From an economic perspective, also though, I'm thinking of homeowners from a health and well-being perspective too, and environmentally.
Yeah. So you can say again, I already mentioned this. Aguado, we are on a mission, and the mission is to help building owners save water and energy in the bathroom. So that's why we we wake up in the morning. That's why we go on work. How do we do this? Well, in order to create the insight, you need to develop some technology. So what we have done is we've developed two sensors. Some will call them IoT sensors. You can say it's sensors that are able to collect data. One sensor, and I better gonna show it because it makes it a little bit easier for you to envision what it looks like. So one sensor looked like this. You install it in the shower cubicle. In its basic functionality, it tells you how long time you spend under the shower, which means you are coming from being completely unaware about your shower time length to now you are aware. End of the day, it's all about creating a change in behavior, which in a sense is very difficult. But we know by several studies, academic studies as well, as just by creating an awareness of showing you how long time you have spent under the shower, that alone reduces most people average shower time with up to 20%. So we're talking a couple of minutes. That alone has an impact on your water bill and also your energy bill. But I was mentioning the word, we are collecting data. This is not to point out individual behavior. We are collecting data to understand behavior in general. So we're looking after behavior patterns. Knowing behavior patterns, we can create additional interventions that end of the day motivates people to reduce their time under the shower. Again, I have to underline, and this is very, very important, everything is based on the individual's own wish. We are not turning off the water. The water is not going to get cold. We're not having any annoying sound. There's no flashing light or anything. It's
So you don't have a voice that comes out, hey,
No.
you idiot, it's time to stop.
Yes, yes. We have had several, people wishing us that we can create this, but then we will become a lifted finger, and then we will tell you what is right and what is wrong, and people don't like to do that. So they do the opposite. They react the opposite way. So we know a lot about shower behavior. We know a lot about the interventions or the nudges that can motivate people to change behavior. And that's really what Aguadio is about when it comes to the shower cubicle. Right now, we just finished a big project with L'Oreal, the big French cosmetic company, where we have done several studies where we know what to communicate that will motivate people to actually reduce the time under the shower based on their shampoo and conditioner products. We know that if you can combine a shampoo and a conditioner into one product, it reduces people time under the running water.
I saw that brilliant. I saw that, and we had talked about it where, because I know Lena Nair, who's the CEO, that the shampoo and the fact of that with your sensor, actually, you don't need as much water for that shampoo, right? Something like that.
Exactly. We know that soft water creates more foam, which means that you have to use more running water, which means that L'Oreal will consider doing products that is based on the hardness of specific regions in the world. Because we know there is a direct link between the hardness of the water versus the shower time length. And that's down to the foam that it generates. And you can ask yourself, does it matter? Yes, it does. If you have the right shampoo formula, you can reduce your time under the shower with 30 seconds.
So all the thinking that men say they do in the shower, what happens to that?
Well, that's a good question, obviously. Again, it's not about being lifted finger. So let's say your normal shower behavior was 20 minutes because you like to think under the shower. You have an Aguadio installed and you reduce it down to 18 minutes. That is a positive impact.
Wasn't there a study you said that that's a myth. We think better. Was it walking, not in the shower?
Yes, that's absolutely true. There's been several studies around that. So basically what we should do is we should motivate people to go for a walk instead of having longer showers. Again, it's down to human nature. It's down to behavior. And it's about creating an awareness. And then you decide as an individual if you want to make that change or not. We will not force you.
Now, I can't resist but saying this, to flush the next thing out. It also works with toilets, saving energy and water, right?
Yes. So as you rightly said, we have also created an additional device. Looks like this. Actually, looks a little bit like a car. Sorry about that. And that is a thing that you strip around the water inlet to your toilet system. So what it does in its basic functionality, it will tell you as a building owner, do I have a leaking toilet? And to my surprise, up to 20% of all toilets are leaking at a certain point in time, which means that every day a lot of water is getting wasted in the toilet bowl. But what it also are able to do is also able to collect data on the number of toilet flushes. Now, again, coming down to behavior on an individual level. Well, we're not out there and say you are not allowed to have your toilet flushes during the day. That's not what it's all about. It's about understanding if you are an office building, do I have toilets that is not being used at all? Do I have toilets that's being used more than others? And that's down to optimizing cleaning routines. We can also install this under the wash basin where you wash your hands. So again, envision you are in an office building. You kind of want to have an equal count of toilet flushes versus an equal count of people have washed their hands. If that's not the case, then you need to create that environment that motivates people to remember to wash their hands after visiting the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the behavior element come in, and that's really what Aquadio is about. We have created a solution that share a light on behavior and then create the intervention or the nudges that ultimately leads to more sustainable behavior. That's the whole essence of what we're doing. It's very, you can say, it's not something that is straightforward, and it takes time, but we have the data that is backing the right interventions.
And I would think, to round that whole thing up, I would think that homeowners would like the fact of moving into a home where the real estate developer actually cares about saving water and energy, not only for them, but for the planet. And I would think it's an opportunity for commercial buildings, hotels or whatnot to say, look, we care about water and energy, and this is what we're doing.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And again, we can definitely see, and this is not only Europe any longer, we can also see it in the US, that there is an increasing, you can say, focus on also doing something good for the environment, especially in the local environment you are a part of. We definitely see that clearly in the western coast of the US. You can say the bigger corporations, hotel chains, etc., they are becoming more and more aware about them needing to also deliver on reducing their consumption, especially on the water side. We see that also a little bit on the East Coast in New York. I actually had an interesting project coming up there in New York as well. It's all about showing that you are part of those who would like to contribute to you can say secure the future when it comes to water. You can say supply.
Which is, there's an expression now: water is the new oil, if you will, and everybody pretty well knows that it's not infinite anymore. And as you say, if everybody does their little part like that times millions, that's a big saving. So it's pretty exciting how you can actually now make a real economic impact, saving money, saving water, saving energy, and social and environmental impact for both commercial and real estate and so on. So congratulations on that. We're excited about you coming to the States and North America and doing more work here. And I want to ask you one question on this part. The year 2020, one client told me about the year 2020. He said, that was the year that flew by slowly. And I thought it was a great line. And 2021, 2022, everything seemed to zoom by and it's all a blur. And 2020 seems like it was yesterday and yet years ago at the same time. With all that, what are you most grateful for? And then what are you also most hopeful for as we head towards the end of 2023?
So I would say over the last couple of years, I've definitely learned a lot, and I think the pandemic really forced us to really stay true to our mission, and it actually motivated me even more because we were facing tremendous challenges, even also financially, because it was very difficult. But as I mentioned previously, we are really mission driven, and you really need to come down and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Well, we are wanted to make a difference, and that's really what we want to do. So I'm grateful that you can say I really had to dive deep into really be true to yourself in that period. What I am hopeful for is that I see that sustainability, the lack of you can say the awareness has definitely increased now, and this is especially in the US. It all obviously comes on top of some challenging periods that especially the West Coast went through when it comes to water, especially. But I definitely see now some bold pushes towards the future, that we really want to secure that water is safe and is for everybody. So I'm really hopeful for that, and I am hopeful for the world overall, despite it right now seems that everything is burning, but I am hopeful. I'm also optimistic as a person.
Well, I commend and thank you for truly being a leader who cares. And you went into one of the most important rooms in the house, the bathroom, to make that happen. So I mean, what better way to make stuff happen? So congratulations. Thanks so much for participating here, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me, and it's been absolutely a pleasure.